my name's Bradley and I'm going to present today on politics in the neoliberal state, specifically looking at youth political engagement. So a bit of audience participation. Margaret Thatcher, thumbs up or down, do we like her or not? Yeah? Jeremy Corbyn, thumbs up, thumbs down? Yeah, so most people are able to give a fairly instinctual, quite quick answer because they both represent very distinct, very controversial political viewpoints. And they both embody what I think actually encapsulates the story of my political generation, of our political journey. So Margaret Thatcher became Prime Minister of the UK in 1979 after a decade of economic turmoil across the West, and primarily brought forward a range of new policies that can broadly be described as neoliberal politics. Now, neoliberalism differs, is the same as traditional liberalism in the sense that it believes in market systems as being the ideal, and as many spheres of human activity being dominated by market forces as possible. But where it differs from classical liberalism is how natural it believes that process to be. Neoliberals recognise that actually to create market systems, you need to put a lot of work into it. Now that can look like reducing state support in areas such as welfare, health and education, so those things become more of an individual responsibility rather than a collective one. It can mean things like privatisation or deregulation, so areas that used to be part of a collective decision-making process are now in the hands of private interests. But it also means a more cultural project of valuing individualistic, consumerist and competitive values over and above cooperative or more kind of collectivist ones. Now, this happened throughout the 1980s and kind of became consolidated in the 1990s, at which point you can kind of describe to some extent a neoliberal consensus amongst politicians. That means my generation were the first to grow up under a neoliberal consensus. During this time period, you see, amongst all generations, but particularly pronounced amongst young people, declines in voting and declines in engagement with collective political institutions such as political parties and trade unions. But at the same time, a commensurate rise in things like buying or not buying products on an ethical or political basis, or protesting against multinational corporations as well. So the site of political activity changes from the state to more market-based interactions instead. That is, until this man on the right comes along, Jeremy Corbyn. Now the figures are still disputed and debated at the moment in academia, but there's some argument that we saw a youth quake in 2017 in the last general election, and that young people, to a higher extent than we've seen in British politics for some time, were engaged with a mainstream political party. And Corbyn was very kind of anti-neoliberal both in his policy but also in his organising and his rhetoric as well. So my research wants to take a more holistic view of political engagement in young people. A lot of studies at the moment ignore social media activism, a lot of them ignore students' union activism and a whole range of other political activities that young people engage in. So I want to get a much more well-rounded, holistic view of political engagement and look at what types of engagement are most prevalent in young people today and what relationship those types of engagement share with traits like individualism, consumerism, and reductions in political efficacy as well, so our sense that the state can change things for the better. So really my research is hoping to understand the impact Margaret Thatcher has had on our politics today and what impact Corbyn might have in the future.